Hello and welcome to this edition of People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marere. Now, against the backdrop of the unrelenting security challenges across the geopolitical entity called Nigeria over several years now, and the failure, the weakness, and or the lack of will by the state and its relevant agencies to confront the crisis head-on, there have been several proposals to tackle the menace. One of such suggestions, which has been reverberating recently, is that for the arming of citizens to defend themselves and their communities against armed terrorist groups and insurgents that are daily on the rampage, killing, maiming, and holding citizens and even governments to ransom. The latest call to arms came from the Zamfara State Governor, Bello Matawalle, who wants all citizens to be licensed to own and carry arms to defend themselves. Matawalle's position has received support from quite a few quarters, including the Governor of Ondo State, Arakunrin Rotimi Akeredolu, the Arewa Development Forum for Peace and Justice, and tactically, so to say, by the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, Pastor Enoch Adeboye. Pastor Adeboye, who wants Christians to defend themselves in the face of increased attacks on them and their churches. Now, before them, the Katsina State Governor, Aminu Masari, and the former Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Lamido Sanusi, had made similar calls as a viable way to complement the military and the police in arresting the security drift in the country. However, Matawalle's call was met with a swift response from the military top brass, who say it will amount to a violation of extant laws, while suggesting that it will be a usurpation of the constitutional responsibilities of the military and other security agencies. Some security analysts have also suggested that the increasing call to arms for citizens is indicative of the collapse of the state security structures and a justification of the demand for state police. A major concern, however, is that the demand for arms is most likely going to increase if citizens are allowed to bear arms, and could lead to anarchy in a country that already has over 6 million illegal arms and light weapons in circulation. These are some of the issues that we will be taking a look at today, in addition, of course, to the prevailing security situation in Nigeria. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we will be meeting our guest analysts. All right, let's get to meet our guest analysts who are already in the studio. First, from my immediate left is Adaze Wilson Imafidon. He is a retired officer of the New York State Police and currently the MD, that is the Managing Director, First Defender Security, Nigeria Limited. Mr. Adaze Imafidon, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Welcome. Also joining us is Francis Enobore. Francis Enobore is a retired prison official. In fact, until his retirement, he was the public relations officer of the Nigeria Prison Service, as it was then called. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's now called the Correctional Service.
Yes,
right.
That's what it is.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we also expect to join us very shortly Major General Henry Ayola, retired, a former commander, Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven. That was a special operation, special task force that operated in the middle belt of Nigeria some years back. He will be joining us very shortly. Well, gentlemen, let's begin. First, quickly, let's have your take or your views on events of this outgoing week. There have been monumental events that have taken place this outgoing week. the Kuje jailbreak or Kuje jail attack, as is being referred to, and the escape of hundreds of inmates, dangerous terrorist inmates who escaped from that prison, and of course the bandit attack on the convoy of an advanced team of the president to Katsina State. Two events that of course seem to have shaken the fabric of our security system in the last couple of days. What's your take? What are your views on these two events first and foremost?
Well, no doubt we are facing enormous security challenges. When you see what is going on, it's very disappointing to see a series of attacks happening. And, you know, the armed forces, the security agencies, they need to do more than what they are doing now. The time for urgency is now. They have to be more proactive instead of being reactive. Most of the time, the system here, we're always reactive instead of being proactive. We have to be able to catch them before they execute their plans. In the planning process, we should be able to know what is going on, and we should be able to stop it, to terminate whatever plans they have before the plans are executed. The incident at the Kuje prison is unacceptable in the sense that for such an attack to happen in such an institution, it's clear that there is gross deficiency in the system, gross failure in the system. So it's not just the issue of people in authority to be doing what I will refer to as eye service, making people believe they are doing what they are supposed to be doing. This now cannot be hidden from anybody. It's clear to the world that people who are supposed to be doing what they are doing, people who are supposed to be in charge of our security, they are not doing what they are supposed to be doing. It's obvious. It cannot be hidden anymore. For such an attack to happen in such an institution, prison, correctional center, for an elongated period like that, is scary. That means nobody is safe anywhere in this country. So the time for urgency is now. We have to start to take very proactive steps, prudent steps, to make sure that we are able to counter the threat before us. The threat before us is serious and it's no joke.
Yes, I was just going to ask you about that. How serious is the threat?
Well,
from what you have seen, from what you have observed.
Well, when you look at the security setup, I'm a security expert. As an officer in the United States, I have been operating my own security firm for more than 22 years in America. So most of my jobs are government contracts. You cannot be a government contractor if you don't know what you are doing. So our company here in Nigeria, we are looking at what we can do for the country. The threat before us is so big in the sense that nobody is safe. They can go anywhere. They have the capability. For these people to operate in a setting like Kuje prison, and they were there for several hours.
Over 2 hours.
Over 2 hours. and there was no counter-attack. I mean, that is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Mr. Nobori, just a few days ago, we were here and we were discussing the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between Nigeria and the United Kingdom on the repatriation of what the UK government, the British government described as dangerous criminals back into Nigeria. And on that occasion, we're looking at the situation in Nigerian prisons. We're looking at the environment in Nigerian prisons, not knowing that this was going to happen just a few days after. Now, this is a correctional facility or a prison facility where, as it has turned out, many people may not have known this before, very many dangerous terrorist individuals were held, and yet it turns out that the security in that prison, that correctional service, was not up to par.
Thank you very much, Imoni. There is no doubt that emotions are high, nerves are on end on the account of what the unfortunate attack on the Medium Security Custodial Center in Kuje. The only thing I want to say is that to make an appeal that we deploy our energy, resources, time more to focus on areas that we need to fill gaps, what we need to do to stop this unacceptable development, that is attack on custodial facilities. Now, to come directly to the question you asked. Yes, the MOU on migration returns was signed, if I can remember, on the 22nd of February this year. When the MOU was signed, it was with some conditions, which of course Nigeria Correctional Service has already met. The conditions in part of the things they wanted was to see upgrade in our facilities, to see what we have on ground with respect to reformation and rehabilitation of inmates in our custody. You are already aware that there is a concept to build 3,000 capacity ultramodern custodial centers in each of the 6 geopolitical zones across the country. We have that of Janguza in Kano, near 95% completion now. There is one ongoing in the Federal Capital Territory here in Karishi. Another one has taken off in Bori in River State, due to other 3 geopolitical zones. These are many other rehabilitation work that have been carried out in the existing custodial centers. And I want to quickly add that but for the unfortunate development in Kuje, the song in the Nigerian Correctional Service had already started on a positive note. We already started witnessing a paradigm shift from the custodial facilities we used to have in the past that many people regarded as punitive. You will recall that we have, it was revealed a couple of weeks back that over 1,004 inmates are currently undergoing their various degree programs in the custodial centers, and 6 of them are doing their PhD program. We are not talking about the sundry trades that the inmates are exposed to. All these programs are directed at rehabilitating the offenders that are kept in custody with a view to returning them to society as normal human beings. You know, so it is unfortunate that this incident happened, and which appears to cast a veil on the progress that the service is making. And let us not also forget that is a huge security challenge that is facing the entire country. So that's why I started by saying that I made an appeal that we should concentrate more of our energy and time to evolving strategies to stopping the general security challenges that are plaguing the nation as a whole. You know,
as part of the changes that are taking place in the correctional service, for instance, shouldn't there be a difference between persons who are kept in detention for correctional purposes and those who are in prison serving terms for criminal activities? Because in the case of Kuje prison, for example, it's become very apparent now that you kept both those who were there for civil offenses and those who are even awaiting trial for criminal, for terrorist activities.
Yes.
You kept all of them in the same facility. Shouldn't there be a difference?
Yes, I will respond to that by saying, number one, we all know that we have infrastructure gap. Then number two, those that are awaiting trial, they constitute close to 72% of the inmates you have in that facility. And this is the same picture you have across the country. And we have never ceased to appeal to relevant authorities to step up trial processes. And the interesting thing, apart from the Kuje incident, most of the states across the consider center we have in other states, the offenders, about more than 90% of them are committed state offenses, which presupposes that you needed the instrumentalities of the state to prosecute those that are there awaiting trial. But we still don't seem to have some of these things working the way we want. Okay, look at 2019. The Nigerian Correctional Service Act was, came on board. As part of the provisions in that act, we have trial process, provisions to expedite trial process of those that are detained awaiting trial. We have provisions for those that have stayed as condemned inmates and have tried all the available windows up to Supreme Court and they cannot succeed. Instead of leaving them there interminably, dying every day waiting for the hangman. So we now have a provision there that gives express approval for state judge to commute the death sentence of such a person that has spent over 10 years awaiting hangman to life imprisonment. But I ask you, how many state judges have done that? We have a provision that involve non-custodial punishment for minor infractions, because we also discovered that traffic offense, minor squabbles, they all ended up behind bars. The provision has also captured non-custodial sentencing, in which case you can sentence such a person to community service that will not necessarily, the person will be useful to himself, useful to his family, and useful to the community, because you have violated the laws of the land. So instead of being kept and wasting government money, go to the street, be of use to the community, and then also help your family. And you would not be part of those that will be congesting the facility. How many of state instruments are doing that? And let us also ask ourselves, the act was enacted in 2019. Up to date, I don't know, as at the time I left the office, I doubt if there was no dime released to the service to actualize the provisions of that act. I don't know what the situation will be now. Also, these gaps, if we have a system, for instance, the Kuje incident, if we have a system that will enable the correctional service to have a separate infrastructure dedicated to high caliber offenders, whether they are awaiting trial or convicted.
Isn't that why they have maximum and minimum correctional centers?
I was just coming to that. Now, I told you that we have a concept now that involves constructing 3,000 ultra-modern capacity consider centers in the country. Now, we have a new sheriff in town. That is mandatory. I would have expected that the required urgency will be given to construction of this infrastructure. The one in Karishi is ongoing, but the pace does not seem to align with the security situation we have on ground. So we need to deliberately do certain things to respond to current security challenges. So
okay. Well, we have now been joined by Major General Henry Ayola, a retired Major General, former Commander, Special Task Force, Operation Safe Haven. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
From the reports we have heard from the prison attack in Kuje, well over 60. In fact, the Minister of Defense says over 64 hardened criminals, bandits and terrorists escaped from that facility. Amongst the over 800 plus inmates that escaped from that facility, there are at least over 60 of them who were in detention. Some of them just moved from Shiroro into Kuje for terrorist activities, for very hardened criminal activities and all of that. How much threat does that pose to the civil populace and to our entire security architecture?
Well, thank you very much. Listening to the spokesperson of the service speaking.
Former spokesperson.
Former spokesperson, yes. Okay. I begin to have some kind of empathy with the service, in terms of the kind of priority they should have enjoyed. But coming specifically to your question, I think it's obvious, it's self-evident that we are dealing with a very bad situation. I mean, knowing the nature of the people that escaped and the purpose for even releasing them, that's where our worry should start from. I mean, it portends so much danger. In fact, beyond danger is that there must be a reason why now. I mean, they didn't get there yesterday, or they didn't get there a day before the attack. So it tells you there must be something in the offing why it is now they are attacking the place to release their members. And I mean, I can extrapolate from that and say, well, maybe they have an impending operation that requires a boost of their size, of their strength, of their force, and hence they think this is the time to do it. Well, that should put all the entire security sector on a high alert and begin to do some preemptive things, take some preemptive measures, which also should have been taken, before now, even before this happened. I've always spoken about having a system of systems. This incident brings to the fore several relevant questions we should be asking ourselves. Okay, I mean, talking about the service is just somewhere in the chain. But starting from the grand strategic level, to the National Security Council, which of course the Minister of Interior is a member, and to interministerial committees that should exist, that should combine the relevant security sectors, ministries, departments, and agencies, to play that interrelated and overlapping roles. That has never been. We've never had this kind of interministerial, interagency, standing statutory committees. Because what touches the correctional service, touches immigration, touches the armed forces, touches the police, touches the civil defense. Is there any such existing committee? No. No. So when we expect some miracles when incidents happen, I begin to wonder, what kind of person are we? We've not put structures, statutory structure, things that should enable us to be able to respond appropriately and decisively to issues. And then we're expecting the response. From where? Who and where? Do we have a response plan that have been rehearsed by all the agencies that are involved before? So what do we expect? That on the day of calamity, then you expect from nowhere something will just spring off? No, that's not how it happens. So this gives us a good opportunity now to put this kind of interministerial, interagencies committees in place. Let them come up with a solid response plan, a contingency plan that will be rehearsed on a regular basis, so that when things like this happen, there is already a drill some standard operating procedures which all the relevant agencies have practiced together, and they can spring it up and make it happen. That's how it works.
So
if
when
you don't have
you
that,
talk about this kind of synergy,
yeah.
because that's what I see by what you're talking about,
Yeah.
what is the Office of the National Security Advisor supposed to be doing? Is it not supposed to be aggregating all of these things, bringing all these services together, all the ministries and all the agencies of government that are related to national security, and forging a united front?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. That again comes down to the issue of systems. What did we craft as our security architecture? What is in the system? What is in the structure? Right from the policy level to the strategy level, to the processes and procedures and standard operating procedure, to the checklists and routines and drills. For example, if I ask the question, in that correctional facility, when last did they carry out their routine procedures of counter-attack of this nature? Was there a standard operating procedure practiced that evening before the night? Was there a stand-down or stand-up security alert practice that was done? The structure that ought to be there, the CCTV, the counters, signal intelligence, communication intelligence, the structure itself. Do we have a national template of what a medium security correctional center should have in terms of civil structure, in terms of communication, in terms of CCTV, in terms of command control, communication, computer intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance system? Do we have? So when we don't put these things in place and we're expecting the men to do some wonder, I begin to wonder, where is our thinking arising from? We don't have these things in place. And then you expect the day of adversity, some magic will just happen or some miracle will just happen. No, it doesn't work like that anywhere.
Now,
Yeah.
Mr. Mafidon, the president, when he visited Kuje, did lament what he referred to, or his disappointment about the intelligence system, the intelligence network. And some of the security organizations have come out to say, look, we provided intelligence about this before it happened, and probably was not taken seriously. There was no synergy between all the services, as the general has put it. That may have been responsible for this. This is a failure of intelligence or the inability to operationalize intelligence.
Well, I will attribute the incident to all of the above you just said, in the sense that if I carry out kind of intelligence work and write my recommendations as to how to counter what is coming, at the same time, I might not be in a position to properly monitor the other arms of operational system if they have implemented what I recommended. In most cases, people don't do their work. What I mean people don't do their work, they don't just do their work. In this country, it's unfortunate that we don't love our country as such. If you love your country, there are many things you can do for your country without expecting any compensation. It's unfortunate that people are always looking for the material gain to do their work, the work that they are already receiving salary for. When I was in the service in the United States as an officer, when we get distress call, everybody is happy to respond. Everybody wants to be a hero. We want to go there, let's go out there and catch the criminals. That is the response. And again, when we say people don't do their work, are these people well compensated by their salary, by their benefits? That is not a reason for them not to do their work. If you are not happy with the conditions of services, you can resign. and let people who are willing to accept the conditions of that services to do the work.
Well, good compensation could be a moral boost to doing the job well.
All moral boosting, welfare package, and other things. See, if you police officer or a serving military officer die in the course of their service, you don't have to go back and be begging. The family of the officer don't have to go and be begging the authority that is responsible for compensation to promptly implement the compensation that that family is due to receive. It's supposed to be done promptly. So when somebody dies in the course of their duty, and I see that my co-worker, the way he or she was treated by the government that this person have served, that kills the morale of the personnel to go out there and put their head on the line. So the government needs to do more, and the people need to do more. See, so when you take a very prudent look at the whole system, it's a complete failure, complete picture of a total despondency.
Mr. Anobore, from what we have heard and seen so far, all those who have visited Kuje, for instance, have come up with tales of woe, of poor security network, no CCTV, no this, no that, the towers were not manned, and all manner of things. And we have not been told in all the stories that have gone around whether of any form of resistance to that invasion by people who came in their tents and riding on motorbikes. They passed through communities to get to that place. There was no alarm bell raised at any point in time. There was no response for over 2 hours that they operated. Now, how did that come to be? Is it that there was security lacks in the facility, or that those who were on duty were overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of these terrorists who invaded the facility?
Thank you once again. It's been said that just like the officer Adazek has rightly posited, that way back there, as a police officer serving in the United States, that if they get a distress call, people are eager to respond. That of course is a product of your level of preparedness, the equipment you are given, and all of that, motivation. Then let's talk about the incident that happened in Kuje. Like I said the other day, these people did not, we are not talking about 2 or 3 people coming around to harass a facility. We are talking about people that came in their hundreds. They passed through villages. They procured logistics. There probably would have been discussions. There would be suspicious movement. There will be congregation somewhere, somehow. Are we saying that nobody saw anything? Let's even keep aside the state structure to the statutory structure established by the state to generate such intelligence. What about you and I, the ordinary man on the street, the villager, the community dweller? Does it mean none of them saw anything? And it brings to question, what manner of impression do people have about correctional service? How do they see custodial centers established in their community? Is it one structure built by the government to punish people unjustly? If that is the understanding, then there will be complacency.
Yeah, the prison.
Now,
the prison yard in most communities is seen from the perception of the colonial period.
That is it.
Where the only things you saw in any community as a sign of government was the prison, the police station,
Right.
and probably, in fact, most unlikely, a health center.
Yes.
If it ever existed. But the prison was there. The police station was there. And that perception has lingered over the years.
Yes. Drawing from what you just said, that was why I started by saying that we needed to change the perception of the members of the public about the service. What the service is doing. I just mentioned the progress inmates are making in terms of educational advancement, opportunities given to them to train for sundry vocations and all of that. In 2018, what we probably didn't appreciate in Nigeria here, way back in France, the Nigerian Correctional Service was given a prize. The service won the highly coveted Confucius Prize in literacy and vocational training.
Okay.
Now, I want to quickly add this. You know, in a typical custodial center, Mr. Daze will attest to this. 100 meters to every custodial center should have a buffer area with high concertina wire. We all see this thing. Even those of us that are not have opportunity of visiting, we see them on the screen. When you see high concertina wire, you see free area, you see gun-toting people moving around, you see high towers, you know there is a high custodial center there. But do we have that in our system? The Kuje we are talking about, you go there. Are we able to maintain the 100 meter buffer area that even the Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019, Section 9, Subsection 3 has provided that for every custodial center, there should be not less than 100 meters of buffer area around the facility. And the reason is simple. You on guard duty, you should be able to profile someone that is approaching. And there should be 24-hour power supply. If I ask if you investigate further, you'll be shocked to hear that place was pitch dark.
I won't be shocked about that. Nigeria is in darkness itself, so I won't be shocked about that. But that will just take us very quickly to the other issue, which is the issue of citizens bearing arms, General. Let's take a few minutes to listen to the response of the Chief of Army Staff when that proposal was made by the Zamfara State Governor, Bello Matawale, before we go into looking at the pros and cons of that proposal.
I think that is the right way to go. There are members of the armed forces, the police, and other security agencies. We equally have vigilantes in Zamfara. The basis for asking for citizens to bear arms, I'm yet to know. I believe that the Attorney General or the Federation will look at the Constitution and what the laws say and what the powers of the Executive Governor is to be able to do this. I do not also think that the Governor has the powers to instruct the Commissioner of Police to issue license, because the Commissioner of Police does not have the powers to issue license. The Armed Forces is only an instrument of policy implementation. We do not take instructions from state governments. We have a Commander-in-Chief. The Constitution gives the right and the powers to the Commander-in-Chief for the use of the armed forces. And I believe that what we're doing in Zamfara State and of course across the states of the Confederation is in deference to these provisions of the Constitution. And so we're there because we're there to give support to the security, to the civil authority, in this case the police.
All right, General. The Zamfara State Governor believes that citizens should bear arms. And like we've been saying, perhaps if citizens were allowed to bear arms, they may have been able to check this invasion of the Kuje prison even before they got to the prison. Is that a possibility?
No, far from it. Thank you very much. Well, that was the Chief of Defense Staff, not the Chief of Army Staff.
Chief of Defense Staff,
yes. Well, sincerely, in empathy with the state governor, Zamfara State Governor, I think he must have said that out of frustration, out of some acute concern. Obviously, he knows the limits of his power as a state governor. He knows that he doesn't have the power to bring that to the fore. Neither does the Commissioner of Police. So I think it's just a state of when you are in the midst of such challenges, it gets to a point that it gets to your neck, and you lose your guard sometimes. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's a big issue really, because it's obvious that neither the governor nor the Commissioner of Police has the power. I think that power resides in the NSA now. That's on that side. But of course, bearing arms, if you look at America, they've been having issue with that, several issues. Of course, those who want to bear arms, based on the Fourth Amendment and all that, they've been making their case all the time. But again, it brings us to the reality of our own situation and the peculiarity of our situation. Are we really ripe for such things? When we are talking about basic infrastructure that are not even there, basic equipment for correctional services and other paramilitary and military services, do they really have all the equipment they need to get their work done? Now, if you don't have that, do we even have such a security architecture that will permit that we can monitor everybody? When the simple issues of identification, we have not even been able to solve it. How do we know who is who in Nigeria? How do we know? Even addresses of homes are not well fixed in many places. So how do you start talking about bearing arms? How do you monitor? How do you even profile the person you want to license to carry arms? When you have so many unfixed addresses, unknown persons roaming around our streets who are not even Nigerians, and we don't have proper paper. So the issues are too many. We should not even be talking about that now. I think all that is required is for the government to brace up, play its own role as the custodian of our collective sovereignty, to protect life and properties. Of course, if there are self-defense issues, of course, surely there are, and it has come to the fore more now than ever before. Yeah, there are things people can do. Again, when it comes to that, when we're talking about what the populace around the correctional facility could have done, look, again, it boils down to what I said. We have so many expectations for things that we have not sown. You don't go and try to harvest in a place you didn't sow any seed. Have we structured our societies accordingly? What have we put in place to promote patriotism, to train young people? In America, that we give example of, during long vacations, you find small children go for short courses on community services, paramedic training, 3 days training on how to be first responders in cases of emergency, what role they can play in giving back to society. We don't have such things. We are not doing such things. So what are you expecting? If you are going to use human intelligence, it means you will have done what America calls every citizen is a sensor. Every citizen is a sensor, where you have given some security, lectures and trainings to even to the basic people at the village level. That, you had when President Obama was the one who brought to the fore then, if you see something, say something. If you see something, say something, means that there's something already in place, a channel through which you can report. Have we put such things in place? If we have we publicized it? I know there is 112, the emergency call centers that people are supposed to call when they say, how many Nigerians know about that? What is National Orientation Agency doing? Have you had them on TV promoting these things? Even the ones that are there. Not to talk of the ones that we are yet to put in place. So we are not just there. So we should not even be talking about bearing arms.
Mr. Mafido, what is your response to that? Should citizens bear arms? What could be the implications of that?
Well, when you look at what we have before us, the insecurity, the rate of insecurity in Nigeria presently is very scary. The issue of bearing arms is long overdue. It's not that people don't bear arms now.
They bear them illegally.
No, citizens bear arms legally.
Illegally?
No,
there are
no.
6 million illegal arms and light weapons in circulation in Nigeria alone.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is when you look at the Firearm Act, the Firearm Act and Firearm Regulation Act in Nigeria, it stipulates how to bear arms legally. Clearly stipulated in the act. The President or the Inspector General of Police or their designee have the power to grant license to bear arms. And what kind of arms would they bear? Hand gun, a pistol, is not part of it. It's exempted from the arms to be bear by citizens. Machine gun and all type of military assault weapon are exempted as stipulated in the firearm article and regulation, the Firearm Act and regulation. The citizens were authorized to have guns like double barrel, pump action, then with the applicable ammunitions for those weapons. Everybody should have the right to protect yourself and your family. In the United States Constitution, as stated in the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms by every citizen of United States who are found worthy to bear arms.
So there's a condition.
Yes. So some people think in America you just go to the shop and buy weapons, buy arms. It's not like that in all states. In New York State, for example, where I worked and retired, of course I'm still there. My business is there. So in New York State, for example, they have very stringent law control. If you are caught, if you criminally possess, if you knowingly and unlawfully criminally possess a weapon in New York State, you can do up to 7 years imprisonment. So it's not just that people just go around and carry weapons and shoot people. So bearing arms is, by the United States Constitution, as stated, the Second Amendment give the American citizens to bear arms if you are found worthy. And, you know, in a way, you are able to counter criminals if you bear arms. That is why people like us who served and retired with full benefit, part of my retirement benefit is to bear arms. I carry a
because you have been trained
yes.
to use such arms.
Yes.
But in situations where ordinary Nigerians who have not been trained to carry arms, in the US, it's compulsory for you to have military service. Here, we don't.
It's very easy to do that. When I mean easy to do that, to train people. Before, you cannot just give people arms. Like the Firearm Act, it's clearly stated. You are not going to give somebody who has some kind of history of mental illness a weapon, or somebody who has serious domestic violence issue, or somebody who go about inflicting serious physical injury of people. So you give it to people who are responsible enough to go through that training and to have the discipline to carry a weapon.
All right. Well, let's leave it at that. Mr. Anobore, I deliberately didn't ask you that question because although you are out of service, but it's not exactly an area that I think you'll be too interested in talking about. But just 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I want to say that bearing arms, as far as I'm concerned, is grandiose. We are not there yet. The general why he was making his contribution asked basic questions. Have we been able to put infrastructure in place? How many of our citizens do we know? What are their profile? in US, if you punch, if you get an individual, mere getting his fingerprint on them alone, it gives you the history of the person. So it's from there you begin to talk of history. Does this person have the capacity to bear this or that? So, and I want to add, if those people that came with high military grade weapons to attack the Constitutional Center, will someone bearing double barrel stay on their way? Yeah, of course not.
All right.
So let us not.
Thank you so much, Mr. Enobore. Our time is up. We must go. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis Enobore, retired Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Correctional Service. Thank you so much for your time, for coming at short notice. Mr. Adaze Wilson Imafidon, retired officer of the New York State Police and now the Managing Director of First Defender Security Nigeria Limited, a security consultant. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And of course, Major General Henry Ayola, retired, the former Commander, Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven. Thank you so much for your time. And for you, our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. Join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.